This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN Network. And today, joining me, a familiar face, Mr. Tom Shaughnessy, the co-founder of Delphi Digital. Tom, welcome back, man. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me back on, man. Love coming on.
Oh, of course, man. Well, look, when we have interesting days like today, it's important to get an update as to what's going on in the crypto markets. But first, before we get into what happened today, real quick, for those who don't know, what is your background?
Yes, met you cutting my teeth in microcap stocks. Feels like a while now. Did equity research at Oppenheimer covering cloud and communications on their tech team before helping to become a co-founder at Delphi Digital, and we're an institutional crypto research shop. Do everything from research to consulting, everything in between.
Got it. All right. So today we saw the biggest sell-off of 2019. Market went down about 767 points, the Dow. And something else that was kind of interesting, and this pertains to why I asked you on here, is that the crypto markets went kind of crazy. You saw Bitcoin go up to a little over 11,500. So what's your take? What happened here?
Yeah, I mean it was a crazy day in the market. It started last night. I mean, there's a lot of factors that are playing into all these moves, but the move in Bitcoin definitely started last night. So we're up about 8% on Bitcoin over the last 24 hours, 11,800. All the altcoins, not all, but most of them are also up higher. I think that basically the macro argument for Bitcoin and crypto is starting to really resonate with a wider audience. So whenever we're seeing real, bad macro events, so trade war tensions, what China's doing with the yuan, Trump with tariffs, take your pick here, we're starting to see the crypto market react positively. So that's definitely a good sign for the crypto market, because that's basically the goal of this entire market, is to create, especially with Bitcoin, a digitally immutable, sound, native alternative store of value.
Because what's interesting that I'm seeing, and I just had a colleague of mine on earlier where we were talking about the macro effects of some of these big newsy events going on, and it's always traditionally been when these big scares happen or big sell-offs, everyone goes to gold, silver, commodities, precious metals as a way to protect your wealth. So it seems like there's now some competition for that with Bitcoin and some of these other cryptocurrencies. I mean, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the drop gold movement has been like an ad campaign out of one of the large institutions here. And, there's definitely clear comparisons between gold and Bitcoin. It's just so simple. But I feel like the gold community has pushed back a lot. I guess they feel their market share kind of getting eaten into a bit. But, Bitcoin has ultra product market fit as a digital gold. It's scarce. It has uncorrelated returns. You're able to opt out of your country's monetary policy. You have the potential for higher returns. You don't have to worry about custodying or storing large amounts of physical gold or testing every grain of it to make sure that it actually is gold. So it has a very easy sell, and I think that's why global investors flock to it when you see a lot of these macro issues or scares.
All right, so let's get into today specifically. Obviously, usually when these things happen, it's a symptom of a bigger problem. So what's been the bigger problem, and then why would you say then that when we last had you on, I guess what was crypto? It was about, I don't know, I want to say it was like 12, 13,000 at that time. It then traded a lot lower, and now it's back up with all this news. So what's been kind of the build to this point now, where a lot of investors saying, what, I'm want to now go all to crypto or go buy some Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, it's really hard to tell who's moving into Bitcoin. So, I'm not sure if everybody in China is saying, hey, now, I've known about Bitcoin for a while. We have all these issues. Let's move our wealth out of the country into Bitcoin because now we understand it. It's very hard to pin down who the incremental buyers are. But what we can look at a high level is when we see scares or issues in the market and we see crypto and Bitcoin in particular react so forcefully up, we know that there's a clear link between the two. So I try not to overthink these things. There's 1,000 macro data points you could look into. 14 trillion in negative yielding debt. Look at Trump with tariffs. Look at everything that's happening in Hong Kong and China. But I think the point is, when you see these scares, when you see the markets go down, and you see Bitcoin go up, you can see the flight to a safer asset and people that want to store their wealth in something that's not linked to the economic condition of their country or the monetary policy decisions of their government.
And while Bitcoin is still relatively in its infancy and cryptocurrencies in its infancy, there is a little bit of data now that we can look at where you see, okay, big market sell-offs. What did crypto do that day? I mean, is this a normal occurrence? I mean, I thought I saw a chart on Twitter not too long ago earlier today where it was like, there was for every green, there was like 3 or 4 reds where crypto didn't actually go inversely. It went with the market. So what is this normal?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's really hard to track specific events in the early days of Bitcoin because the volatility of Bitcoin itself was insane. And this has been a major growth asset that's, up immensely. So it's hard to like tear that out and then apply it to the macro. But what I think we are seeing, and I'm totally not an expert here, but in the macro stuff in particular, but I think what we're seeing is since Bitcoin and crypto has matured and is becoming more of a widely known asset with easier on ramps and off ramps, and it's more widely known globally, we can actually tell that now when there is a macro event that's negative or harmful, and we see a flight to Bitcoin, there's a clear link between the two. So is it normal? I'd say that, this is the goal of everyone in crypto. This is what we all want to see, right? We don't want to see a meltdown, of course, in any country or recession. But to see the link between unhealthiness in the economy or, bad news event and a growth in crypto, that's positive for us.
So then for you, I mean, CNBC asked every one of their commentators today and Fox Business, they're all asking whenever they have somebody coming on, okay, when things like this happen, how should you position your portfolio or what's the sell-off trade, I guess you'd say. So, I mean, in advance of these events and then when the events happen actually that day, as a crypto investor, I mean, what are some of the things that you can do to protect yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, nothing I say is, of course, investment advice. Everyone do your own research here. But
Not a
I
kid.
think the goal is, yeah, I always got to say,
Good.
right?
There you
My
go.
partners get annoyed if I didn't. But I think the point is that while we see clear value in Bitcoin as a digital store of value and a new safety asset globally, it's still a very small market. So a $300 billion market is extremely small. That's like, Apple's cash balance is 210 billion. So, it's very small. But what I would tell people is go out, learn about the assets, compare them to what you have, keep an open mind, and find out if an allocation of Bitcoin or crypto or other assets could make sense for you, especially if you think we're headed for a recession, depression, or worse. Because I think after people explore it, it clicks pretty easily and it clicks hard.
Yeah, I saw that tweet that you put out the other day where, someone said it's how could Bitcoin get to trillion in market value? That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, my buddy was just traditional finance guy, and he never like took the time to look at crypto. And he's like, "Oh, crypto's too large." I'm like, "Man, gold is 7.5 trillion, and global equities is 85 trillion. It's anywhere from 25 to 400 times larger than crypto. We're nowhere yet, but we're on our way."
Got it. So is there any last take that you want to provide to my audience here regarding today's events and things to look for now that, we've had this big sell-off and some of these tariff news and all this stuff has come our way?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say if you're not aware of the crypto market, dive in, keep an open mind, and know that this is not a scam market. This is here to stay. This is a market that I think people will flock to in mass once they understand it. And if you're new to the space, feel free to reach out. Happy to help any way I can.
Perfect. And where can my audience go and find more information about you and Delphi Digital?
Yeah, appreciate that. It's delphidigital.io is our site. And on Twitter, I'm Shaughnessy119.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. So to the next big news event. I'll see you.
Always. Thanks so much, Bobby.
All right, later, buddy.